Welcome back to Shine In and Out, where science meets soul. I'm your host, Sammy Stoltz, and today we're stepping into the world of film, purpose, and believe it or not, pro wrestling. Our guest, Wade Simmons, has lived many lives inside one body. Nearly 15 years of funeral service, training in pro wrestling, and a 9-year journey as an independent filmmaker. He holds degrees from Worsham College of Mortuary Science and Flashpoint, Chicago, and lives by a quiet, powerful motto. Every day we experience our past, our present, and our future. So enjoy every moment. We'll explore filmmaking, the anatomy of purpose, the way death changes the living, and how all these worlds converge inside one creative life. Let's jump in. All right, Wade, welcome to Shine In and Out.
Hey, how you doing?
Pleasure to have you. I can't wait to hear about how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, it's a long story.
Oh, I'm
Oh, you want
sorry.
me?
I thought you froze for a second.
Um,
I was okay. So could you walk us through how you got to where you are today and what has led you to this moment?
sure. So it really started with childhood. I was interested in becoming a filmmaker and a funeral director. And so that was like one of my passions. I grew up reading like a lot of books about like Walt Disney and like how he became a filmmaker and, started his vision and dreams and just kind of pursued it. And so when I got to high school, I was like in art club and things of that nature, just kind of embracing like my journey of being an artist. And then my life kind of took an interesting turn because I kind of put the art stuff kind of on the background because I was also interested in becoming a funeral director. So when I was a senior in high school, my teacher, Miss Anderson, she called one of the funeral directors here in Chicago, and she's like, "I got a young man. He wants to be a mortician, and can you allow him to come on and just check it out and see if he likes it?" And so he told me to show up in a gold tie, white shirt, black suit, and so it turned into me working at that funeral home for 13 years. So that's kinda what really got me in the funeral business, and so when I started working in high school, I was, like, answering phones and helping clean up working services, greeting people and things of that nature, and so I ended up going to college for it. It took me a while to get through school. It's kinda tough, but I managed by the grace of God to get through it, and then once I finished mortuary school, I turned around and went to film school, and so that's kinda what got me into both, so I've been doing it ever since.
So, biggest question here is most people run from death. They don't want to talk about it, they don't want to experience it, and they definitely don't want to be there voluntarily. What sparked that in you?
Well, so when I was young, I had like a weird, I don't want to say out of body experience, but like I almost drowned in a pool.
Oh.
And I remember like as a child saying like I saw angels fighting in the water or whatever. Like I don't really, I vaguely remember it, but whatever it was enough to convince me two things: that God is real and there is a life after death. And so for me, like after that, I just kind of got a little inspired and I wasn't like afraid of it or anything. Just kind of like, well, I know, everybody has to leave one day. And
Hmm.
so like working in the funeral business just kind of became an interest because I went to like a lot of funerals when I was younger. And I'm like, I think this is something that I want to do. Like you get to help people. It's a science. And so I just pursued it. But yeah, I think thinking about it to me, it doesn't really scare me. It kind of more so motivates me to live and pursue your dreams. So that's why like, I'm a very adventurous person. That's the one reason why I did get into filmmaking and I also trained for pro wrestling as well. So
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
you gotta
So,
be adventurous.
psychology actually calls it mortality science. When you have a greater awareness of death, it sharpens your sense of what matters. And you live inside that every day. What have you changed about your approach to life because of the influence of being surrounded by so much death?
Being fearless. I think that, tomorrow, like knowing that tomorrow is not promised to any of us, you gotta take like good opportunities when they come your way. Just like later on today, like I'll be filming on Chicago PD for like the second time. And like you
Wow.
can't you can't fear rejection because like it took me like a few years just to even like, get a part of that. So like it's like I don't really fear rejection. Like it's a part of life and getting the things you want. So yeah.
That is so awesome. And starting in film, did you have the same amount of trouble in school for film as you did as a mortician?
No, not at all. It's like film school was a breeze compared to going to school
Yeah.
to be a mortician because when you go to school to be a mortician, like you're taking psychology, you're taking biology, microbiology, you're taking chemistry, you're
Mhm.
taking embalming, you're taking you're even taking like a lot of courses about different religions and things of
Mm,
that nature, like family structures and things like that. So even so it entails like a whole lot of different things because it's a lot of people really don't think about that, but funeral directors wear
yeah.
many hats. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, as you were describing those things, I was like, "Wow, it's kind of a great interdisciplinary, like, intro to life." It's, you
Yeah,
know, how to live a good life, how to know what you need to know, and how to help people through the hardest of times, and also
absolutely.
all of the science behind how you're doing that. And as a scientist and somebody who's deeply working to be present in every moment, I really respect that. That is a very unique perspective, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, look, time waits for nobody, so we have to I know some people call time an illusion, but what I tell people however we view time, it's still numbers that one day runs out. So I just say
Yeah.
have to just make the most of every moment we get.
Yeah. Did you have so you said you were interested in film since you were in high school, as well as
Well,
being
both
a
since
funeral
I was
director?
actually early childhood.
Oh, okay.
Actually, that
Okay.
like, my interest in both actually started in elementary school. Because when I was in elementary
Wow.
school, I used to take, like, my video camera, I used to write, like, stories and things of that nature, so I was already kinda heading down that path.
That's awesome. Do you think it was helping you make sense of life at that age?
Absolutely. Because like, one of my favorite movies actually is have you ever seen The Bronx Tale?
I have not.
Yeah, but it's a really cool movie, you should check it out, but
Okay.
one of the running lines in that movie is that the saddest thing in life is wasted talent, and
Mm,
so, like, that kinda sticks with me, you know?
wow. Yeah, I think not only does filmmaking have meaning with your own life, but it changes the lives of so many people that are just watching whatever it is for a couple hours. Like, the lessons we learn, the things that we watch other people go through that makes us grateful for what we go through, all of those things, the things we can learn to aspire to. I think it's one of the most accelerated lessons that people don't really pay attention to. They're just in it for the entertainment a lot of the time. So I'm curious, when you are making your films, the ones that you've creatively directed, is there a kind of common lesson or theme that you have recognized among all of your work?
Absolutely, so me, I normally stick with love, and I look at love as, like, not just being, like, in a, relationship with, like, a romantic partner or anything, but I look at love as being something that all humanity should have for one another.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I kinda make my content centered around love. But honestly, I wanna move more into making documentaries. Like I'm currently making a documentary on pro wrestling and my journey and
Oh,
training for it. So that's been going pretty well. God willing, we should have it probably finished by the end of the year, maybe going into next year. But I'm starting to like documentaries more. But yeah, most of my things are just
interesting.
centered around love.
What is it that draws you to the documentary filmmaking?
I think for me working in the funeral business, right? You think about a funeral, it's telling somebody's story. And when you think about like documentaries, you just get to tell people stories. So it's like, to be honest, it kind of goes hand in hand because like whenever you sit through somebody's funeral, right, it's like you're pretty much listening to their documentary. You don't see it, but you hear it. So I think that it would be kind of nice to tell people stories while they're living. That's just me, like,
Totally.
I don't know, it's just something about humanity, right? Like, when a person is kinda living, it's like, but when the person goes, it's like everybody's just so close
I
to that
know.
person, so yeah.
I know. I think
It's a
about that a
weird
lot.
thing to be honest. Yeah,
I think about that a lot because I am somebody who's very focused on love in everything, and I do believe that there should be unconditional love back and forth between all of humanity because we are all the same. We all just want to be happy and we want to be loved. And when you get closer to death, you see what matters. And I think you probably saw that in all of the people that you served over the years, their families. Did you give speeches on the people as a funeral director? You had to learn a little bit
uh
about them and
I've assisted and helped serve people that I actually knew, but for those that I
wow.
didn't know, I would kinda just talk with the family to kinda find out their story, but it's interesting because, like, you find out a lot about people, and
Yeah.
even people that you know sometimes, like, I've known people, like, because 'cause I'm 33, I've known people, like, they're probably in their 80s and 90s now, and, I know some people who live to be 100 and they transition, but a lot of times when you go to the service, you find out a lot about people you known for years that you didn't know. Cause like, it's amazing how, like, a lot of us have friends and uncles and aunts and, maybe people that we know from other areas of our life, and we know them, but, us younger people, we wasn't around when they were in their 30s and 20s, and so you find out a lot about people. So it's like everybody has a story. Like, I believe in life, everybody is somebody, and so, like, I'm just one of them people that, like, believe that everybody has a story, everybody has a
100%.
uniqueness, you know? So that's just what I believe.
100%. When I started this, I was like, I don't need to interview experts. Like, everybody's an expert in their own life and their own lessons. I mean, I wanna interview everyone. It's so important to get the voices out there, and
Yeah.
how incredibly beautiful your voice is when I'm wondering if talking to those families, I am a very empathetic person, like, perhaps a little too much for my sanity, but so when other people are crying or things like that, I tend to cry, and I don't know yet how to kind of separate myself from those things. So it's a kind of a two-part question. One, how did you protect yourself from taking on those emotions as your own? And two, what was the thing that you learned about love and what people appreciate in another human by talking to their families after they had passed about what their highlights, their life story, their personality? What stood out to you as a common love factor?
Oh, that's a great question. So for me, first, how I normally separate myself from it is that I always think about it like everybody has mortality. Everybody has like, we're all just, growing, aging through life, and we all have a birthday, we all have a date that we have to leave. And so whenever I'm at the funeral home, I always think about like, one day, God willing, everybody's gonna, make that transition. And so thinking about that, like, it helps me to like not really just focus on death, but focus on life. It kind of so that's what helped me separate it because I'm like, okay, knowing this, while I'm here, while I'm present, then I'll focus on the present. I'll enjoy every moment. I'll spend time doing what I love because I think you have to really protect your sanity. And that's no matter what you do. And then as far as having love for people, just kind of, being in the funeral business and like, you see a lot of times people are grieving the loss of a friend or, a family member or coworker. And it's like, when you see that, it's like it kind of puts like a lot of more compassion in your heart. Like, wow, like, it doesn't matter. Like, and to be honest with you, it doesn't even always matter what type of person that person was because to somebody that's their loved one. We don't always know anything about people, whether they were a nice person or a mean person, but a lot of times in that moment, that really doesn't matter. It what matters is that that's somebody's loved one who's transitioning. So when you look at it like that, it's like, we all just people just navigating this life that God has given us. So you
That's
just try to be
beautiful.
kind to people. Yeah,
Totally, and when you say nice or mean person, it's arbitrary. It's like to one person it could be a normal statement, to another person it could be excruciating. We can't measure a human based off of like one descriptor or any descriptor really, because the way you catch them in a moment isn't necessarily who they are. It definitely isn't who they are. So that perspective of that's somebody's loved one, even if they're not your cup of tea, is really
absolutely. You know
powerful.
what? I kid you not. There was a lady who came into the funeral home one time, and it was the decedent was a male, and this was his ex-wife that came, and she came in and looked at him, and she said he looks better dead. And I said, I mean, I don't know what type of person he was to her, but I'm like, look, I'm not wishing that on anybody. Like, but I was like really shocked that she said that.
Maybe it was a compliment to your work.
Like, what?
Put that on your resume. Okay, so we haven't talked about the wrestling yet, and I definitely need to know how that started.
So I actually wrestled in high school my freshman
Oh,
year and I
okay.
quit. And then senior year, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna finish it. So senior year, I joined the team. I stuck the whole season out, and then I put wrestling on the back burner, but kind of like in the back of my mind because like going to school again for mortuary science, like the schools that I went to, they didn't have no wrestling team, so that was out the window. But what ended up happening was after I had finished film school. I wanted to make a documentary about pro wrestling, and so I reached out to a guy by the name of Steve Boz. He's been in the wrestling business for quite a long time. He actually wrestled in WWE when it was WWF for some time, and so I reached out to him, and we started talking, and he was just like, "Whenever you can, just come out to the school and check it out." And so I was always working at the funeral home, so like, cause like Friday and Saturdays, that's one of your busiest days. So it's like I knew that wasn't happening, but one day I ended up, making it out there. And when I got there, he started showing me the school and showing me the other wrestlers and stuff. And then he like kind of asked me like, "Well, when you gonna start training?" And I was like, I guess I'll start next week." So it ended up turning into me training for like 2 years.
Wow. So you came to wrestling because you wanted to do the documentary, and life just kind of nudged you toward doing the actual wrestling yourself.
Absolutely. And it was actually fun because I got a chance to meet like some people from WWE that I used to watch as a kid, like Carlito. I met Scotty 2 Hotty, and then some of the people from like AEW and some of the other promotions. But it was pretty cool to kind of see what they go through and to like, see that like, wow, there's a lot of up and coming talent, a lot of people who are really doing this. And, maybe they're not making as much money as some of the people in some of the other promotions, but they are, having fun with what they do, and they're traveling the United States or out of the country, just doing what they're passionate about. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting.
Wait, I'm thinking that you need to be continuously making your own documentary, because I wish you had started with your experience learning how to wrestle or your experience as a mortician. These are things that common people have no experience in. Um, and I think would be very curious about, but also you are such an insightful person and you see what actually matters, and you're pulling all of these lessons from all of these places that nobody would even know to look. And I think your voice, and I'm so excited to be sharing it today, can do a lot for this world. So thank you for being here. Um,
Thank you.
I'd like to hear from you in your own words. I know your slogan is that we experience the past, present, and future every day, and might as well make the most of it. What do you mean by that?
Well, because the question you just asked me is in the past. It just passed already. And now we're in the present, and then the next minute is the future. And so
Ah!
it's like we experience it every day, past, present, future. And so with that being said, like every moment is precious, every moment is valuable. And to
Mm.
me, I feel like, life is like a movie. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so we have to always just focus on the present and hope to, do great things in the future. But the present matters a lot. To me, the present matters a lot more than the past. And
As it
even
should.
oftentimes the future, because what we do now helps to build for whatever future we would like to
Oh,
have.
yeah. Yeah, if you're
So
not
we
focused in the
experience.
present, you can't build the future.
Yeah, one of my favorite movies also is Back to the Future. I don't get to talk about that as much, but I really love that movie because, like, it's just, like, really cool that he got a chance to go back in time and see what his parents' life was like and then come back to the future. And it's funny because, like, when you think about the movie Back to the Future, he went to the past and came back to really the present, but Back to the Future. So it's an interesting movie.
That is, yeah, a little bit mind-boggling. What came to my mind when you were talking is we are going to have more past than we ever will present or future, because when we pass away, it all becomes the past.
Yeah,
So the amount of past moments that we're accumulating is uncanny, but we focus on the past moments that were negative to us or hold emotion for us. And yes, it does come into the present moment, but so does the previous moment. And so
absolutely.
we're giving more weight to certain past moments than other ones when we could be focused on right now making a new past for our better future.
I like that.
So Back to the Future, though, is kind of like speaks to your love of documentaries, because you're going back, you're learning about another life. And like I said, I'd like to go back and learn about your life. I want to, a little bit of a lens into your experience thus far. Could you talk about what it means to be an artist to you?
So what it means to be an artist to me, what it means to be an artist is always express yourself. Don't try to like make the
Mm,
things you think people will like. It's about you putting your own
mm,
touch on whatever your vision is. Cause like one of my favorite filmmakers is George Lucas, and I kind of get a lot of inspiration from him because he made Star Wars at a time where, like, nobody was really making movies like that. He was making it his way, and, like, some people in Hollywood was like, we don't know if this gonna work," but he trusted his own vision and it worked. And so
Mm.
to me, I think that as an artist, you just gotta stay true to who you are and the things that you like, because I know that we live in a world that, like, most things are commercialized, and I get it, but I think
Yeah.
that, like, having personalization really makes a big difference because not everybody likes the same thing. It's just like music, like, some people like hip hop, some people like country, some people like gospel,
Yeah.
some people like blues, some people like jazz, but everybody has, a different taste, but every artist is different and every artist has their own touch. So I think that, as a person, we should all keep our unique, abilities and share our own stories and not try to, duplicate anybody else's.
That is so interesting because it's a big theme in my life and it's a big thing that I'm working on, following my heart, my intuition, my ideas instead of what is right in society. And I was actually I was actually journaling about this last night because I was talking to somebody at lunch and we were talking about who you would be if there was no what's the word? Mask or, if you were uninhibited in every sense, who would you be? How would you be different? And my answer was that I would be telling people I love them more, even strangers, because I feel it. I really do love them. Like sometimes I will spend a few moments in a bank with somebody and when we're in the parking lot, I have to be like, love you, drive safe, because I
Yeah,
do. I love them. It's everybody deserves love. And even if they're hard on the exterior, that's because there are layers and layers and layers of experience on top of that golden heart in the middle. And it doesn't mean that it's not there. So some people can be tougher than others, harder to break through that shell. But as long as I'm myself, I think it's impossible that somebody doesn't love me if they know me. And I don't expect anyone to know me. So I'm also like, okay, I love you and that's enough for me. If you knew me, you would love me. But
yeah,
the idea is the way that society pushes us, the way that like success stories push us. I would love to just pursue my art, which is teaching people about science and soul and opening their eyes to another way to live, happier and healthier and more present.
yeah,
But I'm being told by so many people all of the time, what's most effective for business is this. You have to do this type of search engine optimization. You have to do this. You have to sell a product. You have to, you know, get deals and have people advertising on your podcast. And I'm like, I don't want to do any of that because that's not what I'm about. I'm about sharing the message. So when it comes to your experience with that, have there been many moments where the system has kind of stood against your what you know is your art?
yeah. I mean, because again, a lot of times when you commercialize things, it's about getting the dollar. But when you personalize things, it's more about you. It's more about connecting with people. And so, to me, I always tell people I'm more of an educator than a salesman. I'm not
Mhm.
necessarily trying to sell anybody anything. I love people, and I understand we all have to make a living for ourselves. But it's like, you know, sometimes when people value like the dollar over people, I don't know, I don't really think people are truly happy like that. Like
No.
it may be the way that a lot of people do things, but I don't really see that working out so well, to be honest. Like I think that it's important to value people
Oh,
because,
yeah.
to be honest with you, if people didn't support businesses, there would be no businesses. I think that we have to always prioritize people.
That's very true. Like you said, people need to make money. And I completely understand that because I know what it's like to feel that sense of scarcity around money. And I work to live from a place of abundance because that's not the only measurement, right? We have love and companionship and experiences. And I forget what I was going to ask. It was very, very, very.
It's okay. It'll come to you. It'll come to you.
You were saying, I should have written it down. I always write it down. Can you walk me back? What did I ask you?
How far? You wanted to know about the kinda like my way versus the system way? Yeah, but cause again, as an artist, I think that it's just so important to be you. Cause like, it's like if I try to just copy everything that's already out, it's like, to me, it's not really and I'm don't get me wrong, I know, like, with social media, like, a lot of times people use what's trending because
Yeah.
maybe it's an artist and everybody's unique but, they're trying to get more views and things of that nature, so sometimes a lot of people just would take something popular that happened and put it in there. But to me, it's like, nothing wrong with it if that's what a person want to do. But to me, I think it's good to stay true to who you are,
Staying true to who you are is harder than it seems, right? Because we do have that pull of society telling us things. I have people tell me sometimes that, oh, you're going to be the Mel Robbins of your generation. And I love Mel Robbins. One of the best podcasts I've ever come across. And she teaches and she inspires and she helps people grow. And that is what I want to do. And I would never take it as an insult, but I also know that I want to create my own art, not in somebody else's image.
yeah.
Have so when you think about it's interesting though, because when you think about a muse, like you said your favorite movie was The Bronx Tale? Is that what I can't read my
Hmm.
handwriting. The Bronx
Yep, the
Tale.
Bronx.
Do you take inspiration from the movies that you love and
Yes.
make it feel like your own?
I do, because like I said, that quote from the Bronx Tale, "The saddest thing in life is wasted talent," that is one of my favorite things because when you think about it, right, it's like, everybody has a talent, but a
Yeah,
lot of times, life kinda throws all these different situations at us, and sometimes people are overwhelmed with situations, but everybody has, like, a unique gift that can be beneficial to the world and be beneficial
100%.
to us. Oh, no matter who we are, like everybody, like we're all people, we're all brothers and sisters. And so to me, it's like it's just a good thing to like tap into whatever gifts God gave you because your gifts are important to utilize. Like that's what you have them for. It's like what good is something if it's just stored up and not being utilized,
100%. I couldn't agree more. And when it comes to leaving behind a message, if you could have one movie that you make across your lifetime that becomes a cult classic, what would you want the message to be of that?
I would love to make a movie pretty much like about like a girl who was like a scientist and she created this invention, but just kept failing. It kept failing. And so she ends up kind of like having this dream and then in the dream like she finds out like the piece that's missing. And then when she wakes up, she actually utilizes the piece. It's kind of like one of those like, intuition because I've had like dreams that actually things actually happen, but I'm very big on like people with dreams and things of that nature. And so I would love to make
Wait,
because that's more realistic than people think.
wait, it's way more realistic than you think. You just found your lead actress. I am a scientist and I often have dreams that give me ideas. Or sometimes I'll even wake up and I'll be like, I put the wrong antibody in. Or like, oh, I didn't put my samples in the cold room. Things like that. And I'll go in and I'll fix it. But it's only because I had the dream that I realized that there was something I needed to change. So that, I mean, when you were talking about it, I was obviously excited.
I tell you, a real a
Yeah.
real thing that actually happened to me. When I went to school to be a funeral director, I often share this story, but what took me so long was that we had to pass, like, this exit exam called the capstone, and it was really
Hmm.
hard, so basically, like, because to be a funeral director, you have to sit for the national boards and all that good stuff, but before you can even take boards, you gotta take a test before the test. So being a funeral director, there are 2 parts of it. You have arts, which is the funeral director side, and then you have
Mm.
science, which is the embalming side. So it was taking me a while to pass the test. So that's what ended up leading me to go to film school. And so right when I enrolled, like it took me like 7 to 8 months to get past the first one, but I didn't pass the first one until I went to film school. And then when I went to film school, I passed the art side. Now, this is the funny thing. So after I graduated from film school, I still had the embalming side to finish. So I wasn't thinking about the embalming side. I'm like, I'm just gonna focus on being the artist or whatever. And I had a dream that I passed the science part. And so I woke up the next day, I prayed, I'm like, okay, God, I just had this dream. I'm gonna trust you today. And I went out there and I passed. It was all because of a dream that I passed.
That is amazing. That is so amazing. And you finished, like, even though it was hard, you pushed through. And okay, so the arts and science, of course, the tagline of this show is where science meets soul. And when I have philosophical debates with myself, I think about what represents the soul. And the only thing that I can think of that isn't evolutionarily based or scientifically based, like our neurotransmitters and our emotions, our reward systems for survival or mating or any of those things. So even emotions you could tie back to science, but the one thing I don't feel that you could tie back to science is art. The making for
Yeah,
the sake of making instead of making for an outcome, which we do in every other realm. So how does science and soul collide for you? That art and the science that they couldn't go without each other.
that's a great question, actually. So for me, I always say like, science, well, when we look at science, science is kind of more so like testing theories and proving theories. But then the soul is something that you can't see. You just have to trust it. It's weird
Yeah.
because it's like, again, science it's a theory that is tested. And sometimes some things are proven, some things are restudied. But for me, how I really combine the two is like this. It's like if I believe that something is gonna work out, I can't see that. But I trust and I test the theory and see if it works. So it's so to me how it combines with art is just testing your ideas and see how it works, you know? And for me, it's not so much about it becoming popular amongst other people. It's just me expressing the things that
Yeah.
I enjoy making. Cause like I feel
Yeah.
like I've got stuff that I made that I'll probably never even release. I try not to make stuff too much that I don't release, but sometimes you just make things because that's what you want to do.
Absolutely. I've got some poetry in the archives that I probably will never share. That is yeah, I love everything that you're saying and the artfulness of it. Like you live life as an art piece. Your whole timeline is an expression of your purpose and your intuition toward what you're meant to do. I hope more people can listen to this and live like that because
Look,
it is the path of least regret. I talk about that all the time. That when I make decisions, I'm thinking, okay, when I'm on my deathbed, what am I going to regret doing or not doing?
yeah,
And
that's a good way
it's
of looking.
never working more, tell you that much. It's always spending time with family, spreading more love, and following my heart. And I was talking about actually also in my journal last night that making decisions is very difficult for me because I allow my brain to play tug of war with my heart and my gut. And I let it go on for a really long time and it's torture. And then I always end up going with my heart. So I'm like, all right, now I can recognize instead of wasting time that I just have to listen to my heart every time. Was there a point when you figured that out, or did you kind of just always lead with what felt right to you?
Kind of a little bit of both. And I'll tell you how like I can relate to what you said because prior to well, this is like before I graduated film school, I ended up developing a vocal disorder called spasmodic dysphonia. A lot of people don't know what that is, but it's like it's basically like kind of like it's not life threatening, but it's life altering. Like it was like
Yeah.
if I got really stressed, my voice just I sounded
Oh.
like a totally different person. It was odd and I didn't know what was going on, but I was working a lot. And then, like, I remember going to this voice therapist because, like, they wanted to give me like these Botox injections, and I'm like, I don't know about that. Let's try to find something a little more natural. And so the voice therapist was like, "Well, wait, you're an artist." She said, "You work at a funeral home, but why don't you take a step aside and just focus on your art?" And so sometime after that, like when I actually left working the funeral home full time and I started balancing my life out a little more, it went away. Now they said there was no cure for it, but it went away. My voice having strain. So to me, it's like you have to always kind of listen to your instincts. And then there's been a lot of other areas in my life where like in my mind, something like, no, try it this way. And it worked. And so, I mean, I just trust it.
The intelligence of our bodies is insane. And for years, I didn't listen to the messages mine was sending me. So it's amazing that who was it that gave you this advice? Was it a practitioner?
Yeah, it
Is
was
it
a
speech
voice
therapist?
therapist. Yeah.
That is the best advice I could ever think of. And I'm so
And I
glad that
had a lot
you
of fun.
listened to it.
Speech therapy was pretty fun. Like I never thought I would actually need it, but it was like one of the fun times of my life because it was funny
Right.
because when I worked at the funeral home, the owner was like, "Why when I see you on podcast or other places, you just seem so like full of life and just but when you here you sound." And I'm like, it's the stress from this place, my brother."
That's how you know. Dang.
Yeah,
Yeah, I totally get that. There have been multiple times that I was trying to juggle so many things and it was taking a toll, and you have to choose what ultimately is your art, or you're going to continue to suffer. It seems like my body doesn't want me to do anything that isn't purpose driven. And I feel like
yeah,
you were kind of having that happen to you. Like if I'm overworking, but it's like I did 6 months in corporate America and I didn't last. I was like, I am depressed and I have never been depressed. So I was like, all right, yeah, I definitely need to get closer to my purpose. But I needed to have that experience to know that I can't lead that life. And it
yeah,
pushed me toward this one, and I love this one. So when
yeah.
you were being pushed toward these three kind of very different life shifts from mortician to wrestler to filmmaker, or actually filmmaker to wrestler to filmmaker, but you're still all of those things at this point. How did your circle react? Your family, your loved ones, your friends? Were they like,
Oh, this
dude, like pick something?
yeah, yeah, well, yeah, look, that's what everybody say. They like, "You gotta find one thing," and but when I would listen to people, right, I always listen to the way that I believe that God leads me because it always worked out because sometimes people, they love you and they want but everybody is not the same, and everybody's journey is not the same, so it's like, to be honest with you, sometimes, there might be a standstill in this place because you have to go over here. And then when you go over there, everything works out over here. And a lot of people may not understand that, but it's like sometimes in life we have to let go of the way we think things should happen. Because a lot of times we're
Oh
like,
yeah.
if I do this, it's gonna happen. But a lot of times that's not how life goes. Like I'll give you a good example. Like a couple of a couple of weeks ago, I was on Chicago PD, right? Now this is funny. They picked me for a funeral scene. I can't get away from this. So
You're
so
like, don't
while
worry, I'm
so
an
while
expert.
So while we were on set, I was talking to one of the other actors, and there was another young man. He heard me talking, and he came over. He just happened to hear me talking about pro wrestling. He actually trained for pro wrestling too. We knew some of the same people, so I'm like, wait a minute, this is no coincidence, right? They gonna pick me to do what I do in real life, and then I end up meeting another fellow pro wrestler, like, and so sometimes things have a funny way of working out. So I think that we have to sometimes let go of the way that we think things will happen because a lot of times it never happens the way that we think it will. So to me, to be honest with you, a lot of us are many things. Sometimes some people are just not, they just don't like some people put like this, okay, this pays the bills. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
just focus on this, but I always say not everything that's of immediate benefit is always best in the long run.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
sometimes
$100%.
you just have to trust how you're being led because you'll be surprised how things will come out for you. But that's where patience comes in. And a lot of times people talk about patience, but it's a lot harder than people think at times because
Oh
patience is
man.
a powerful
Yeah.
thing.
Patience and balance are things that I think I will always work on, but trusting that things will work out has gotten easier and easier with time, both because of my inner narrative and because the evidence that I've had that it does work out every time. And when it doesn't, I'll either get through it or I'm dead. And hopefully people will read my poetry and it will move them because like you said, art becomes more meaningful when somebody has passed. But I was guilty of living forcefully, like didn't like the picture of the unknown, so I was trying to force all of the things that I expected to happen. And you see this in like, oh, these women say, oh, I want to be married by 27, I want to have a baby by 30, you know. And then if it gets derailed, the amount of stress that they're under because that's the agreement that they made with themselves so long ago, but it's not necessarily
Yeah,
what is actually right. So setting up structure that isn't helpful is very common. And I would like to see more people trust rather than force the outcomes on things.
absolutely.
You're right, it never happens the way we think it will. No possible way we can predict it. And that is a lot of the suffering is the worry over how we think it will happen, and then it's totally fine. I had a meeting with my boss yesterday. He had me read these 3 papers, and they were extensive. It was like a stack of paper like this, and he gave them to me morning of, and I was freaking out. But then we get there, and I'm reminded of how lovely he is. We were gabbing. He was, I was asking him questions. He was educating me on some things like grants and things like that. And I left there and he was so complimentary. He was like, I hope I get to have you as a PhD student. And I was like, oh, so you do like me. That's great. And so I left there so ecstatic, and I've forced myself to think back to how nervous I was and to remember this for next time. So the wrestling is acting too, in a way, with bruises.
Yeah.
So acting with injuries. Not that acting doesn't cause injuries. So have you found a kind of kinship between the wrestler in you and the actor in you? Is that a newer thing that you've started doing?
Absolutely, because I mean, again, with when you're dealing with the world of pro wrestling, it's an art to it too, and you have to be creative because a lot of the pro wrestlers have different characters. You have to kind of, and it's one of those things where like you just have to find something that works. And there's a lot of more cliche gimmicks out here, but it's like that's one of those things where you really have to find like something that just really resonates and works with you, and it's pretty cool because, like, a lot of times you can be so many different characters if you wanna be. You could be as many as you wanna be. So for me, it's
Yeah.
just it's a lot of fun though. Like I said, I
Yeah.
I have a blast, meeting and connecting with people and a lot of times, Imma be honest, like, for me, when I go to a lot of the shows, a lot of times I'm there living in the moment, but a lot of times I'm in there, I'm interacting with the people, you know? I done made so many, like, friends in there just talking to people. I never meet strangers.
I love that. I love that. Those are my favorite people. Wow. So, yeah, make it fun. What is your creative process like? So, whether it be creating a film script or, doing some videography or acting or wrestling, are you more like plan ahead structured, or are you like go with the flow? I trust that what's going to come out of my mouth is what's meant to. Where are you on that spectrum?
Actually, a little bit of both. But I'm a master at improvising because it is funny you brought that up because, like, with me, I do write my scripts out, but a lot of times I always say, like, since I've been, like, filmmaking on my own, I notice things do not always go how you plan, and so I leave room for change, and it's funny because, like, some of the other filmmakers I work with, everybody has a different style, like, with me, like, like my friend Ben, for instance, he's a genius with filmmaking, and, like, he has kinda really helped me out a lot of times, kinda sharpen my skills because Ben is he's more stick to the script, and he's great, he's
Mm.
good. Me, I'm more kinda like I'll improvise, but I think sometimes you need a collaboration of both. And that's one thing about, like, being human, right? Like, it's a team effort. And so what this person brings to the table, like Ben, for instance, he helps sharpen me in one way, and then my way of doing it kinda helps it out too. So it's like, I think that's the uniqueness of it. But I learned in life, you have to be willing to improvise sometimes because a lot of times I always say filmmaking is like life. You make a plan and it goes out the window.
Yeah, great lessons there too. Actually, while you were talking, my brain made a connection. When we're talking about the balance between improvising and following your art versus following a script and pre-planning, that is science and soul.
Yeah,
It's a balance in everything. We need to balance the amount of work and the amount of time we play. We need to balance the amount of stress with the amount of relaxation. We need to balance, not choose
absolutely.
one or the other. And like you mentioned earlier, people tried to force you into one field. And I've experienced that both outright, where people are telling me I need to pick something. Just yesterday I was talking to my boss's boss, and I was telling him like my dreams. I want to teach people how their minds and their bodies work together, how their perceptions influence their biology and their gene expression and their biomarkers and all of these things. And I want to study immunology and epigenetics and all of these things. And he's like, okay, well, that can get scattered. You should probably focus on like one thing. And the amount of times that I've heard that is absurd. And even just applying for PhDs, it's like you have to pick one. You have to pick neuroscience or psychology, not both. You have to pick, biology or genetics or immunology. I want to do it all.
I love it.
So
And
for
I support
somebody,
you in that.
thank you. Thank you. Because I think that the lenses are often too narrow. We start our career in one place and end it in the same place. How much did we really grow? Of course, we can grow in that direction, but you can't learn these things that a mortician would learn if you're only a filmmaker and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, how do you balance the path forward with the allowing yourself to branch out and learn it all?
So I put it like this. So when I'm in the moment, like if I'm at the funeral home, I focus on being the best that I can be there. But in my mind, I still be creating stuff for the film industry because a lot of times when I was at the funeral home, I would get a lot of ideas just by sitting around observing people and just
Mhm.
paying attention. And so like, it's almost kind of like with me, like because to me, even though people like, you should do different things or whatever, but to me, it's all storytelling. Because if you plan a film shoot, you get a location, you get a date, you get the cast, you get the crew, you bring in people together. When you're planning a funeral, you get a location, you set the date, you get the family together, and you pretty much come together to tell a story just like you would as a filmmaker. And then when you get into pro wrestling, even pro wrestling is storytelling because again, you got to get the wrestlers together. You got to work out and you come together with the fans, you put on the show, and so to me, it's all storytelling. So to me, that aspect of it is like to other people, it seems like it's different, but to me, it's just all storytelling. And that's the way that kinda helps me to kinda just balance everything out, but at the same time, like, to me, I'm not locking myself into just one thing because, honestly, I've grown so much and met a lot of people, and to be honest with you, when you're thinking about industries is networking. So,
Yeah.
when you network here, over there, sometimes it's a combination of both, like, I've actually done film shoots for people who worked in the funeral business, you know? People in the film industry have talked to me about things when they've lost relatives and loved ones about what to do and how to, you know? So, to be honest with you,
And while you're
I
acting,
think
you're meeting fellow wrestlers.
absolutely. And so, like and then nowadays, right, I think because of social media, you're finding out and we're finding out that there's a lot of people who have so many different interests in life, and so I would tell anybody that, like, whatever you do, don't burn yourself out because I've known people in the pro wrestling industry that got burned out. I know people in the film industry that got burned out. I know people in the funeral, especially during COVID. I know people in the funeral business that got burned out. So to me, for me to keep my love for everything that I do, look, I balance it, and I don't let the business get the best of me. Like, and I mean that in a way of like to the point of stress, because I like to enjoy what I do. So I think keeping a balance helps me to keep that joy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think about that all the time. Like, I could go the financially more logical route and like choose the sure thing, but I would be selling short the purpose that I'm here to bring to people. And it's not even like it would be selfish of me to choose stability when I know that I can help so many people, even if it means I'm unstable or unsure or, don't have all the luxuries that I'm accustomed to,
Yeah.
lucky enough to
Well,
have been accustomed.
yeah.
So that leads me to, while I'm young, let's build it now so that it can be income, so that I can focus on that helping people without having to worry about finances or spread myself too thin in other areas that don't serve me or the people around me.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So I really like that lens. Of course, it's easier said than done to choose that life over the safe one, but you can make it safe if you're passionate enough.
Actually, you said something that's really powerful though. You said something I really like that a lot of people look at the funeral business as being more stable because as a filmmaker, you might get a project here and there, nothing for a while. But to be
Mhm.
honest with you, again, I always say that not everything that seems to have immediate benefit is always best in the long run because again, we have to understand that if you're doing something that's an idea that you have and that God's given you, to me, it's like, you have to trust in your heart. The way that you're being led is for a purpose because a lot of times, this is what people don't realize. Nothing is really certain because we've seen, people in industries, especially now with a lot of mass layoffs and things of that nature. So to me, you got to trust your creativity because creativity, that's a really powerful thing because when there are no opportunities, you gotta create one. So it's
Yeah,
very
and
important for people to focus on being creative because that's more power than what people think because we don't know what's coming down the road in life. So You gotta trust your instincts.
I think it's also the only thing that makes you irreplaceable, your creative lens, because I could sit at a desk and you could sit at a desk and we could both be punching into the same Excel sheet and be expendable to a company. But you'd never be expendable if you were fully yourself because there's no one else that could do that. So for the people who have forgotten how to live in the moment or feel stuck, what is your advice on uncovering what your purpose might be and how can you take steps to follow that path even if it's not super clear?
You just whatever brings you joy that you do, keep doing it. And then when you're doing something that's not bringing you joy, you have to start journaling, start thinking, and just kind of just make a path for yourself. Because again, even put it like this, everybody have to plan, you have to prepare, but you also have to take action because a lot of times people really don't realize that when you take a lot of time when you take the first step, sometimes a lot of more things start unfolding more so than you think, but
Oh, yeah.
fear holds a lot of people back. And I always tell people that one thing I learned about anything that you do in life is that it's important to not live with fear because fear holds a lot of people. I often say, like, when you look at life, right? Like, if you and look at the animal kingdom, right? Like, in the animal kingdom, the lion, even though the tiger really to me is the biggest, but the lion is the king of the jungle, as they say.
It's just the
However,
hair. I'm just kidding.
there's a little animal called the honey badger. He's
Yeah.
smaller, he or she is smaller, but, you notice that, like, with honey badgers, they're not afraid of lions, not afraid of hyenas, not afraid of elephants, and it's something about the way God made their skin or whatever that, like, the bites won't hurt them, they'll roll up in the ball in there, and look at how small they are, but look at how powerful they are, and so to me, it's like we kinda live in a world where, like, there's a lot of things thrown at us, but you gotta be like the
My
honey badger,
gosh.
you know?
That is
Stand up
beautiful.
to the ferocious one.
It doesn't matter how small you are as long as you stay with yourself and trust your ability to survive in this jungle,
Absolutely.
then you're safe and powerful, like you said. You know, you might not think of a smaller creature as powerful as compared to a lion or a tiger, but there is a different form of power than physical strength. And a
Absolutely.
lot of power comes from just a person's message that they're brave enough to share.
Yeah,
And I do wanna mention the one of the things that you say you live by, which is what you're doing in wait, what was it? What you're doing in the present isn't necessarily what's best for the future?
yeah,
Okay, that is like classical delayed gratification experiment, right? Like, if you want this 1 marshmallow now or 3 marshmallows in 10 minutes, like the kids study. I think that is a huge skill because if you want immediate gratification, you'll go for the easy dopamine, the drugs or the scrolling or whatever it may
yeah,
be for you. But if you're okay with delaying that gratification in the name of purpose and making sure that your purpose and your willingness to pursue that purpose is always bigger than your fear. It doesn't matter if you have fear. I have fear all the time. I just don't let it overcome my purpose. I always keep it
yeah.
smaller. So, when it comes to that, what would you say if you're on your deathbed looking back at life? What would
I
you
would
say your purpose is?
I would say that my purpose was to love people, to only fear God and to love people and to just show people love. Cause to me, it doesn't matter what we do at the end of the day. We have to have love in our hearts for people because again, we're all on this planet together to experience life and to find purpose, hopefully love each other, love God. Cause again, the world not a bad place. It's the things that us human
Oh,
beings
yeah.
sometimes do to one another, but the world is a beautiful place. And so to me, everything means nothing if I don't have love in my heart for people.
Yeah, and, we see a biased percentage of negative things on our social media, and that's what sticks with us, but Steven Pinker wrote an entire book evidencing that we have less violence than ever, and yet that's all we see in the news stories, so it's also important to question, because our brains are so good at sticking to the negative things, questioning, 1, whether it's, as big of a proportion as you think it is, because I've never met somebody in my daily life that is treating people the way that some people on the news treat others. Or, I'm 24 years old. I feel like that's a decent study time. N of one.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I love what you're saying too, because you're right. It's a lot of more negativity being shown than love. And it's like, cause like I said, you brought up an interesting point, cause like earlier today, right? Like when I scroll through, and I try to not spend too much time scrolling through, but a lot of times when you scroll through, you see more people fighting,
Mhm.
people harming one another. But to me,
The
it's like,
political stuff.
yeah, that too. Like,
It's not
yeah,
like that
yeah,
in daily
that.
life.
But it's like when you really think about it, it's like, look, we all human beings just trying to live out our life. We don't have to have so much hatred and division, but it's just but people have to make a choice to either be full of hate or full of love. And to me, being full of love is a lot more than being full of hate. Because a lot of times when you really think about it, it's like things doesn't have to be this way. So, and you're right about that because
I
I've
know.
actually had the privilege of speaking to some individuals that work in the news media. And this has really been my plea with them is like, because I had actually talked to a few journalists and I asked the question, like, I'm not trying to be funny, but it's like, there's so much good and positive things out here. There are so many people out here doing good things, making it. Why don't you help them tell their stories? And
Wow.
it actually led to me like thinking about making this movie because I also wanted to make this movie about an artist who she was doing a lot of great things, but nobody paid attention until she died. And then they put
Mm.
her story in the paper based off a tragedy. And so to me, it's like people are more than tragic. But again, that's really the only time you really see people's story get told is unfortunately through some type of negative, it's weird. It's just very weird to me.
It is unfortunate, and I think about that all the time, and there are a lot of times when I'm looking at the way that things are run, and I say, "Things don't have to be this way." And I've actually said before that, "Wouldn't it be nice if people appreciated my work before I die so that I can see the impact that I'm having?" What is, from your perspective, something that we can do to change that narrative of things are only most valuable when they're out of commission from being recreated, I guess?
Yeah, well, for me, how I try to change the narrative one step at a time is that whenever I come across somebody doing something good and positive, I reach out to them. I never meet strangers. Like this might seem weird because again, we live in this world now where people are so obsessed with like likes and clicks and followers. But to me, it's nothing. It's I get it. It's what you do to build your platform. However, my question is that really connecting with people? So to
Mm.
me, what I started doing was when I see somebody doing something I like, I'll send them a message. I think to the point I done sent so many people messages. I think they done been trying to stop me now. But, I'm one of them people where like look, it's a good thing to kinda get to know people because I don't wanna just see you selling me nothing. I wanna find out who are you, you know? How did you start doing this? I like to hear people's stories. So to me, I'm not one of those people like when I see people doing something good and positive, I'm happy, I'm excited for them. And I just want to, hear their story. And I'm not waiting until to a person, maybe go to Hollywood or whatever. Like, if I come across a person wherever they at, whether independent, whether mainstream or not, I love people and I love talking to people and connecting with them, man. Just hearing their stories.
Wait, I have a big idea from what you just said. Oh, I don't know how I did that. Big idea for a possible collaboration, because this is something that I would love to do, is gather the voice of people that aren't recognized in Hollywood, gather the voices of farmers and bankers and Pilates instructors. And like you said, everybody has their special thing. And I would love to do a documentary highlighting that fact, because there are people that don't know that they have a special thing. And there are people that will look at the people that they see as normal and hear them say something that they know is profound and realize that they themselves have something of their own to add to the conversation.
I love it. Let's do it.
I I would really like to give everyone the spotlight, because we ignore the
Mhm.
people who aren't loud. And I think the quiet ones are the ones who don't care about the wrong things. And I want to hear them.
I tell you I'll tell you something really funny that happened to me one time. I got a cousin of mine. He's acting, doing some pretty big things on a lot of. He's been on like a lot of television shows and some movies too. And he's really getting his name out there. And this is funny. I remember I was talking to this one podcaster, and I was telling her like talking to her about my story and everything. And she says, "That's all fine and that, but can you get your cousin on here? Like we want to speak to him." I said, "No problem," but he ended up turning it down. I said, "See, you coulda look." I would happily did it, but oh well, it happens.
Dang! Well, when they hear this, they'll regret it. You have a lot to say and a lot of profound wisdom to share with people. So let's get going on that project. If you need an actress for your a scientist movie, I wouldn't even need to act. That would be so fun for me.
I got
And I've always had an appreciation of film, but I never wanted to be famous because I really value my privacy. But if I'm known for a cult classic with a great message and both of our great grandkids watch them, I'll be
you. Yeah. And I think it's cool just to do what you love, whether people are looking or not. Like, me, I don't really care about fame or nothing like that, but I do love building connections and I don't mind sharing my story with people, but it's for people who want it. I mean, look, everybody's unique. Everybody has a talent. Like I said, everybody has a story, and we know that in this world we live in, to be honest with you, that sometimes, some people may be on bigger platforms, but, you go as far as you like to go. To me, I just say you tell your story to the people that want it. But don't worry about the people that don't want it. Just give it to the people that want it. But I want to hear everybody's stories because I think that everybody
right.
has a purpose, and I think that everybody's been through things in life. And so, like, in this world that tries to divide people, we all a lot more alike than we think.
That's another thing. I think people would have a lot more empathy if they saw the average person and heard about what they've been through because you can hate your coworker Barb and not know everything that she's going through at the moment, you know?
Yeah,
So kind of hearing that from people, not only the wisdom and the lessons and the beauty that they have to share their own creative art, but also the struggles of the common person that you'll never be able to look at it the same way again when somebody is rude.
absolutely. And and I like what you said earlier too. Like I try not to judge people, even based on what I see, because a lot of times we'll scroll through social media and see somebody lashing out, but they may not even be that kind of person, just having a rough day. So, it happens. I always say like I give people the benefit of the doubt at times because you never
Yeah,
know. And a lot of times we don't always know the full story on things. So I never try to be too judgmental when it comes to people because
100%.
I can't really judge somebody. I mean, we all have our bad days, it happens.
Yeah, and even anytime that I've been hurt by someone, I never think it's about me. I'm always like, "Man, like, if only I knew what they were going through." And like I said, if you knew me, if you really knew me, you would love me. So I don't have to have any fear with that. One random question before we go. What was something that you learned in speech therapy that shocked you or that has changed the way that you communicate?
Ooh, that's a great question. Actually, just happiness and joy. How it's more powerful than what people think because here I am having like a crisis with my voice and not realizing that just focusing on what brought me joy was the remedy. I didn't need no medication. I just had this joy. So it's mindset is a powerful thing. It's a lot more powerful than what we think.
Fire weight, I'm literally trying to prove that to people with science and whistle. So thank you so much. The mindset that you have created over time has led you to pursuing exactly what you're meant to be pursuing. And may that inspire more people to choose that route instead of the quote unquote safe one, which, like you said, there are no guarantees in anything. It's never works out how we
Absolutely.
think it will. So
Yeah, look, I
might as
said
well follow your heart and be happy.
I kid you not. When I was on the set of Chicago PD a few weeks ago, I was sitting next to a young lady, and she was a fellow actress, but she didn't really seem too thrilled about being there for whatever reason. And I was
Oh,
just like, "How long have you been?" And she like she looked like she didn't want to be, but we talked and everything, and then but she ended up telling me that she actually wanted to be a mortician too, and I thought that was interesting. But then she was telling me how she had this good job and she got let go. She got furloughed. So she started acting just as a quick paycheck. And so I said, oh, but then again, that showed me, look, you never know. Cause I be seeing people like when Hollywood went on strike, I was seeing people making comments like, get real jobs. But no, being a creative and an artist and a filmmaker and an actor, that is a real job, actually. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
people look at it as entertainment, but there are people who depend on that to make a living. And like I said, this young lady, I'm not gonna go into all the details, but she had a good job and got furloughed, and so this was how she paid her bills. So You
That's
know,
amazing.
I don't that's why I say I try not to say anything bad about anybody. Cause look, everybody life is different. We never know I mean, there are people that are lawyers who are doing other things. There are people who are doctors doing like, it's just everybody's life is different. I've met so many interested people. It's just, you never know why people choose the path they choose, but maybe if we walked in their shoes, we would understand. So, that's the way I try to embrace life.
100%. 100%. I think we always have good intentions, and it's not always clear that they were good when things end badly on another end, but you're absolutely right. Another question popped up for me. In this age of technology and distraction and overstimulation, people are going about their entire day stressing at work and then coming home and watching TV. And gosh, I love a good TV or movie, a show or a movie, but I think a lot of people use it as an escape of their actual life.
Yeah.
What is your take on that? And how can people enjoy the art of it fully while also being present to their truth and reality?
That's a great question. I would balance it out. Like one thing about me, like I actually have certain days where I don't watch TV at all. It's mainly like Wednesdays and Sundays I don't watch TV, but it's just something that I do, not saying other people should do it, but for me, it's important to focus. And yes, it's okay to have that down and leisure time, but I always tell people, even with the phone and social media, like I always tell people, don't scroll your life away. I think even with
Yeah.
technology, like we got so much nature and beauty that God has given us out here
Oh my
outdoors and,
gosh.
things that you can do to enjoy life. But, we kind of living in this time now with like, it's a lot of more screen time. But I think that I don't know. I hope that, as humanity that we just start, focusing and getting out more and enjoying, just nature because that's so
I know.
important. It's a lot more peaceful than what people think. And like I say, nothing wrong with communicating and stuff. But like I said, but a lot of what we do, like I can't speak for everybody, but to me, that's why I say like communication is not just scrolling and just pressing the like.
Mm-mm.
It's actually
It's
having a
not.
conversation with people. So that's kind of like me. I'm not all in alignment with social media. Like, no, like to me, social media is cool, but I rather communicate with people. Like, actually, I don't like to just look and scroll and like. No, I like
Oh yeah,
talking to people. I like getting to
absolutely.
know people because to me, is that doesn't do anything for me just looking, liking, and scrolling.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not. It doesn't I mean, in fact, it's overwhelming for me to approach things that way. But when I get to talk to one of my friends one-on-one or a phone call or something like that, it is the most amazing thing. And we forget that we are a species that was literally evolved to be communal, and
Absolutely.
loneliness does have negative effects on our health.
Yeah.
So if you think that you're socializing plenty, but you're only doing so through social media, you can still be lonely, and you probably
Yeah, you're
are.
right. You know what's funny about that? I kid you not. You just go to like a family reunion or something. Now, I don't know if you experienced this, but it's like you got cousins and stuff that you ain't seen in a long time, and it's like every now and then you might talk on social media. But then you go to the family reunion, and if it's about if it's like 150 people there, out of the 150, it's probably like 70 people on their cell phone most of the time. It's like it's
I've
not
seen that everywhere.
it's like to me, it's not really communication. Like I like talking to people. Like, yeah, I don't like scrolling and then that shit. Like, no, like I like making because people can post the parts of their life they want you to see, but you really don't know how people really feel. And if you don't talk to them, you know. So
Seriously.
it's important to check in with your friends and family.
All right, another project for us, Wade, is to create a documentary called It Doesn't Have to Be This Way. And we can talk
Mm,
about everything that's going on in society that isn't necessarily aligned with love and purpose and what could be. I think that would be really cool too.
yeah, we should do it. Let's make it happen.
It was just a divine thing. It drops in. All right, wait, well, I won't take any more of your time. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm so excited to share your words and your wisdom with everybody in the community. And I do
Oh,
really
thank
hope we
you
get
for
to work
having.
together.
Oh, we will. And like I said, I never meet strangers. I'll give you my information so we can keep in contact.
Perfect.
But thank you for having me. It means everything. And you said you're going to California too. What part?
We'll see. It depends on the PhD program I get into, but
Okay.
that's That's the state I think I belong in, either that or North Carolina.
Okay, well, we got a whole lot in common then because I was looking at Carolina too, but, I'm
Alright.
going to, California, so if you make your way to the Anaheim area, that's where you'll more than likely find me.
Alright, alright, awesome. Well, have a great move and all of that, and geez, enjoy the weather.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm trying to hurry up and get back to California for us because we done
Yeah.
already got snow up here in
I
Chicago,
bet.
so I'm trying to hurry up and get up outta here. I don't
Oh,
wanna
wait, it was
walk in the winter
such a pleasure.
wonderland this year.
Ah, no. No. Awesome. Yeah, let's absolutely stay in touch. Thank you for everything. Have a great rest of your day. I think you said you're recording another episode of Chicago PD today?
Later today, yeah, I think
Later
we gotta be there
today?
at, like, 5, yeah.
Look at you.
Pretty
You're
cool.
stacked. You're doing it all. I
Look,
love it. I love it.
I'm just having fun, just, it like I said, I go to have a little fun and just make connections, you know? No opportunity is
Totally.
too big or small, I love them all.
Okay, I have another question. I'm sorry. Do you have to go?
Uh-uh.
Okay, how is your work style with these creative things? Like, are you forcing yourself to like be at your desk at home doing things all the time, or do you allow yourself to flow, work when it feels right, follow your own like internal schedule?
I got my own internal schedule. I'll tell you,
Hell
like, I
yeah.
have a routine most of my day, like, if I 'cause most of my day, if I don't get a call, a lot of times I'm at home. A lot of times I spend a lot of more time talking to different friends and just checking in
So
on
nice.
people, and then I also spend a lot of time, like, going over some creative work, but I just go based off, how I feel, to be honest. Like I
Heck
said,
yeah.
I don't want no more spasmodic dysphonia, so for medical purposes, I
Jeez.
just go based off how I feel.
I really, really like that, and I could learn a lot from you because for some reason I'm still trying to push through instead of let go. So
Yeah,
thank you, Wade. Thank you for everything. And we're definitely going to have you back because clearly we haven't covered everything.
it's alright. Anytime you want me, I got you.
Awesome. It was great to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Wade. You remind us that life is not one straight road, but a series of overlapping stories. From funeral homes to film sets, from wrestling rings to editing suites. His journey proves that purpose isn't found in one identity, but in how you bring yourself to every moment. You can connect with Wade on Instagram at WadeJedi99 and see his work on Vimeo at Wade Filmmaker. If this episode inspired you, share it with someone who needs a reminder to live with purpose. And as always, keep shining.